The top stories: Ethiopian government says the national army and allied forces are achieving major victories over TPLF. And Ethiopia shows better performance with promoting maternal and childcare amid some unrest in the country. Hello and many thanks for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Do stay with us. Government Communication Service says the National Army and other security forces are registering victories over TPLF through their coordinated military maneuvers. Head of the service, Lagasa Tulu, has said in a press briefing that the Tigray People's Liberation Front TPLF has earlier opened attacks at Warababo, Tauladere and Chifra fronts, mobilizing all it had. However, the security forces, in a counterattack they launched in a well-coordinated manner, have caused TPLF to suffer huge losses. Except mentioning that terrorist TPLF fighters became fatalities and the injured, the head did not state the number of casualties. He as well urged all capable citizens to be ready to serve in the military, adding that working to sustain the economic growth is another key battle for Ethiopians. The United Nations is facing new scandal as a Tigrayan TPLF rebel leader is seen hiding in a prefabricated container house, often used by UN agencies like WFP. Sources also say the Marxist TPLF head, Debretsion Gebremichael's recorded speech, might have been taken from a shipping container in Tigray or a temporary housing or storage facility utilized by American and other humanitarian organizations. Daniel Kasahun has more.
As the Ethiopian government increases its strikes at militant and TPLF targets in Tigray, various rebel leaders are increasingly hiding in civilian infrastructures like schools and Western staff shelters, employing a human shield tactic. However, there has been no condemnation from top United Nations officials against this illegal practice by the rebel leadership. A source dictates it is unlikely the United Nations leadership will condemn the TPLF act, since New York and Geneva-based higher officials have already fired outspoken regional United Nations officials, Maureen Ching and Denia Gaile, who became whistleblowers against improper conduct from its higher ranks. The United Nations whistleblowers, interviewed by Canadian historian and writer Jeff Pierce, accused some Western actors of colluding with TPLF rebels, including inflating data for OCHA publication. Sources in Ethiopia say Debretsion Gebremichael's usage of a United Nations Western temporary housing is likely carried out intentionally and with the authorization of the Tigray-based United Nations staff. There has been an established pattern of misconduct by Tigray-based United Nations representatives and staff. In a leaked audio, the outspoken United Nations officials had criticized that their United Nations representatives assigned to Tigray have gone scoundrel and take direct orders from Tedros Adhanom, the former TPLF leader who became Director General of the World Health Organization, WHO. This latest United Nations controversy comes as United Nations is already under fire for allowing the TPLF to suspend air delivery of humanitarian aid. Last week, United Nations aid spokesperson Stephen Dujarric admitted that the United Nations received instructions to abort landing by the Mekelle Airport Control Tower, which is currently managed by the TPLF rebels. According to sources in Ethiopia, government airstrikes hit TPLF military storage and training facilities. However, TPLF used these events as a justification to stop all aid flights arrivals into Tigray in order to pressure Western government to impose a no-fly zone to protect TPLF military. Famous Tigrayans like journalist Hermela Aragawi have already condemned such rebel tactics that is prioritizing TPLF's military objectives over the interests of every Tigrayan suffering from this war. This devastating TPLF ban on humanitarian aid flights has prevented the Ethiopian government from delivering more aid and medicine directly to the Tigray city of Mekelle. After spending months criticizing the delay of aid passing through the conflict zone of Afar region, which TPLF admitted invading, Western officials like Samantha Power and United Nations officials have refused to condemn TPLF's blanket ban on all humanitarian aid flights from Addis Ababa to Mekelle, which had been the most reliable and consistent method of aid delivery for months. Such aid weaponization and TPLF embargo on aid is likely to increase the suffering and starvation of innocent Tigrayans who are held hostage by TPLF for refusing to be combatants for the rebels.
Ethiopia and Russia explored ways to forge strong cooperation in the field of science, innovation and technology. The head of the International Cooperation Department of the Russian Academy of Sciences, S. Malenko, visited Addis Ababa. The representative of the Russian Academy of Sciences was welcomed by the Minister of Innovation and Technology of the Ethiopian, Bellet Molla, and met with the leadership of the Ethiopian Academy of Sciences. Negotiations on a wide range of issues of cooperation were held in a constructive atmosphere. The parties confirmed their strong desire to increase mutually beneficial cooperation in scientific, innovative, and technological spheres. Foreign Affairs Ministers of India and Italy have vowed commitment of their respective countries to deepen ties with Ethiopia. The assertion from the two ministers came within their congratulatory messages to Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeka Mekonnen. Subrahmanyam Jaishankar, the Indian Foreign Minister, said his country is keen to transform its relationship with Ethiopia in multifaceted areas of cooperation. He said the two nations are in a better position to leverage their immense potential for mutual benefits of their people. Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio, on his part, underlined that the two countries need to join hands to further their historical relationship. He underscored that Italy appreciates the measures Ethiopia is taking to address its internal circumstances in light of its significant position to safeguard peace and security in the region.
ከጨንቻ ወደ ጅማ የሚሄድ ወደ ሀገረ ማርያም የሚሄድ ወደ ሸዋ የሚሄድ ሸዋ ምንለው አዲስ አበባ ነው የሚሄድ ነጋዴ ሁሉ እዚህ መጥቶ ነው ረፍት የሚያደርገው።
Ethiopian Health Minister says the country is showing better performance with promoting maternal and child care amid some unrest in the country. The remark came during the 23rd Annual National Health Conference being held in Jigjiga City. Alula Teklamariam has more.
The two-day event to review the health performance of the nation is being conducted at Jigjiga City, where high-ranking government officials, including Health Minister Dr. Leata Dessa and Vice President of the Somali Regional State, Ibrahim Osman Farah, are in attendance. Themed Responsive Health System in the New Beginnings, the 23rd annual meeting is aimed at strengthening sustainable health finance system and boosting technological advancements of the sector. Speaking on the occasion, Health Minister Dr. Leata Dessa expressed the government's commitment to spur up the health sector, calling upon all sectors in the field to play their fair share for its realization. The minister underscored that the Ministry of Health witnessed encouraging results irrespective of various challenges at the global and national levels.
Also, we achieved better in maternal and child health, yet there were limitations compared to the plan. According to mainstream health information system, over 14 million or 73% women were given modern contraceptive services. Regarding child health, about 93% children under 1 year were given all kinds of vaccines.
Meanwhile, Deputy Head of the Somali State Health Bureau, Dr. Sharmarkir Sharif, underlined the success stories of the Regional Health Bureau, citing the reduction rate of maternal and child mortality.
As you all know, today we have come together to reflect the performance of the health sector over the year 2013 Ethiopian fiscal year, which marked a multifaceted and more formidable challenge. As part of the global community, we spent all the 365 days of the year 2013 fighting with the complex, the direct and indirect effects of COVID-19 pandemic. As a nation, the response to the pandemic was compounded by additional demand for the health service with a different modality to the huge number of internally displaced people and the victims of the conflict that resulted in a mass mortality. These have stretched the capacity of the health sector as well as its stakeholders. Ironically, this fiscal year we have witnessed a significant contraction of the international development assistance to the health sector despite intimidating challenges that we have faced.
Paul Walter, Development Director at the British Embassy, to his part expressed commitment to support Ethiopia's health transformation plan.
We're privileged to be part of these collective efforts to improve the health and well-being of Ethiopians. On behalf of the many HPN partners, we sincerely appreciate that our partnership and collaboration has remained possible during the challenges of working through COVID-19. Let me pay my tribute on behalf of the development partners to all of the skill and the dedication and the expertise that you and your teams have given over the past couple of years to take on and stand up to one of the biggest challenges that the world has faced. Let me also pay tribute to those health professionals that have lost their lives trying to save the lives of others. The HPN represents more than 25 bilateral donors, as well as 7 multilateral partners and private foundations. We are committed to supporting Ethiopia achieve the goals outlined in the Health Sector Transformation Plan and the SDGs, as well as to alleviate health and nutrition emergencies. Our support takes many different forms, ranging from budget support and pooled funding to projects and technical assistance in the form of in-kind donations to stimulating private sector partnerships.
The coronavirus pandemic, growing conflicts, and rural displacements, among others, have been mentioned as hindering challenges of the health sector across the nation. An award was also given for distinguished services in the health sector. Reporting for ATV English, Alula Teklemariam, Jigjiga, Ethiopia.
Ethiopian renowned personality Tedros Tashome calls for further action in disclosing TPLF's belligerent acts to the global community. Tedros says the recent U.S. resolution is complementary to Ethiopia's effort in fighting the TPLF clique's disinformation campaign. Sintayo Tamrat tells you more.
The U.S. House of Representatives recently passed Resolution 445 on Ethiopia that for the first time endorses the reality about TPLF atrocities in the national army and civilians in different parts of the country. Talking to ETV English on the matter, Ethiopian popular personality Tedros Tashome says the recent U.S. resolution has some promising elements. According to Tedros, the resolution openly admits that TPLF attacked the Northern Army aiming to launch war last year. The resolution also calls for pulling TPLF forces from Amhara state and ending the recruitment of child soldiers, on top of making divorce with another terrorist group OLF Shane, the armed faction of the Oromo Liberation Front.
They are good points, but there are not so good points raised on that issue, on that resolution, that they still need to be informed more about what's going on really in Ethiopia. So it's a good sign that we saw those three points raised, but there are still some facts to be understood from their side, that there are still some facts that we need to tell them, because they are still treating the TPLF as an entity than as a rebellion or as a terrorist group. They are a terrorist group, and they need to understand that. They need to grab the fact that these people are a few people who are trying to destabilize the country. On this resolution, yet they are still treating them as a legal entity. So we still need to work hard on that.
The U.S. could change its stance on Ethiopia because of the efforts from nation-loving individuals and Ethiopians in the diaspora, particularly those in the U.S. Tedros also mentioned his role in presenting the facts about TPLF and the present scenario in North Ethiopia to U.S. Congresswoman Karen Bass and the European Union.
The Ethiopians abroad, the Ethiopians in especially California, the Ethiopians in America, who have been, asking for petitions to be signed, who have been demonstrating on the streets of America, who have been trying to reach their congresswoman with different formats, like through virtually going to her offices, and some endeavors from our side, like myself. This, helped the congresswoman understand some facts, historical facts, geographical facts, and TPLF's intention.
Ethiopia has not done enough in presenting the facts to the global community that TPLF started the conflict in North Ethiopia and escalated it into Amhara and Afar states.
We haven't done our assignment in presenting the fact on the ground here. So first we need to do our assignment. We need to present the facts well enough. We need to come up with documentations to tell them that this is what is really going on in Ethiopia.
The TPLF are using their people they positioned in the global system to give a wrong picture of Ethiopia to the global community and states, he said, illustrating this with the leader of World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom.
The TPLF supporters have gone too far with the budget they have, with the supporters they have, with the lobbyists they have, with all the people that they have assigned in different international organizations for the last 30 years. So they have done enough to do the damage before we started challenging them. So those are the people who are hurting Ethiopia, not the countries themselves. Those are the people who are misinforming the Western knowledge. Those are the ones to be trusted because they have been with them for the last 27 years. So the Ethiopian government needs to send representatives who can change these facts now. So those are the people who are hurting Ethiopia more than the developed world themselves. We still have Dr. Tedros Adhanom representing Ethiopia at the WHO, and you know what he's doing right now.
Since some Western actors in the global politics do not want Africa to wake up and prosper, the Ethiopian media industry must strive so that it can explore and credibly propagate the current phenomenon of Ethiopia to the global population, status, and organizations using the international languages, the artist advised.
For 2 years, Sudan had looked to be on the path to democracy, leaving behind decades of violent military dictatorship to become a pocket of stability in the turbulent but strategically important Horn of Africa region. But Monday's military coup d'etat has turned that on its head, taking U.S. officials by surprise and sparking fear that a failure of democratic transition there could encourage coups elsewhere and lead to a loss of U.S. influence in the region. Many agree that the coup in Sudan is a reflection of the failure of U.S. policy in that nation. Take a look at the story.
For decades now, the political affairs of the Republic of Sudan have been a preoccupation of the U.S. State Department, Pentagon, and the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. Prior to the partition of the country in 2011, Sudan was the largest geographic nation-state in Africa. The country of 50 million was becoming an emerging oil-producing state, maintaining ties with both the West and developing countries. However, international pressure from the U.S. under the administrations of Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama sought to balkanize and destabilize the country. Since the overthrow of al-Bashir, the monarchies of Saudi Arabia and the UAE have pledged monetary assistance. The U.S. then pressured Hamdok into accords that are at extreme variance with the priorities and needs of the Sudanese people. Hamdok and al-Burhan knelt to U.S. pressure and revoked without any legitimate authority the Israeli Boycott Act of 1958, which prohibits recognition and trade with Tel Aviv. The people of Sudan have also been forced to pay restitution for crimes ostensibly committed during a previous deposed administration. This reckless disregard of the political and economic sovereignty of Sudan could only serve to weaken its national institutions and foment social chaos among the working class, youth, women's organizations, and professional associations. The coup has been condemned by numerous opposition groupings, including the Sudanese Communist Party, which has called for mass resistance against the push. Biden administration maintains same imperialist policy. The current administration of President Joe Biden has paid limited attention to foreign policy. His orientation has been quite similar to that of his predecessors Obama and Trump. Biden has continued and enhanced the hostility towards China, Iran, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Cuba, Venezuela, among other states. The potential for an international conflict over the strategic control of geopolitical regions could very well erupt in the coming months. The failure of the Biden administration to intervene constructively in the Horn of Africa is fostering greater discord and instability. With the seizure of power by the Sudanese military, this scenario lays focus on the need for a political revolution in the country, along with several others. Despite the promises of monumental economic and security assistance from Washington and Tel Aviv, the Sudanese people continue to be mired in a cycle of declining wages, rising prices, and political uncertainty. It will be up to the workers, youth, women, professional associations, and genuine political parties to build a coalition of popular forces that can secure a victory over the military apparatus and construct a domestic and foreign policy independent of Washington and Wall Street. The intervention of the military in governmental affairs is once again becoming widespread on the African continent. In Chad, Mali, and Guinea, similar developments have taken place. The African Union must address this crisis in order to prevent a further deterioration of the security situation on the continent.